Welcome to the Multiply Your Success podcast, where each week we help growth-minded entrepreneurs and franchise leaders take the next step in their expansion journey. I'm your host, Tom Dufour, CEO of Big Sky Franchise Team, and as we open today, I'm wondering if you're struggling to find top talent or maybe to keep and retain the great talent that you have. And if you are, if this is the situation you're in, you're not alone. And I think this very well may be the biggest challenge facing organizations and businesses around the country today. And if you find yourself in this situation, or you're maybe just looking to figure out a way to better manage your staff and team, this episode is for you. Our guest today is Danielle Mulvey, who went from being a flight attendant to building a business enterprise grossing more than $50 million a year in annual revenue. She shares with us how she built the 5-star rating system and how you can use it in finding and retaining 5-star employees. She's also partners and co-authoring a book with Mike Michalowicz, who is the author of The Profit First System. And he was a guest on our podcast back at episode 23. So if you haven't listened to episode 23, we included that link in the show notes. And you're going to love this interview with Danielle, where she talks all about the 5-star employee rating system and how you can use it in your business. So let's go ahead and jump into my interview with Danielle Mulvey.
I am Danielle Mulvey, the Chief Curator and President of the All In Company, but I'm also a former flight attendant turned multiple business entrepreneur. So All In is one of my businesses. We have a total of 5 businesses that do over $50 million a year in annual revenue. So I don't want to just the All In Company is a bit of my newest company. So.
Wow, what a story. You jammed a lot in such a short sentence. That sounds like maybe a separate podcast interview for us to talk about your whole background from flight attendant to, running all of these businesses. That's impressive.
Yeah, well, funny thing is it'll all make sense at the end.
Great. Well, where I was hoping to start with you, and really one of the things that when preparing for the interview that came across my desk here was this idea about 5-star employees. And you talk a lot about that on your website and with some of what you're doing. So I'd love for us just to start there. How do you define 5-star employees?
Yeah, so a 5-star employee represents the top 15% of available talent in the market for the given rate, which statistically means that 1 out of 7 candidates is a 5-star potential employee. So what's funny is that most businesses settle for average, ho-hum, maybe even worse in terms of employees. And those we would define as the 1, 2, or 3-star employees. And so when you recruit and hire employees, it's a numbers game. You would really need to have 21 applicants to net 3 potential 5-star candidates if they represent the top 15% of available talent out of the 21 applicants that you have. So what I find most businesses struggle with is they struggle to attract the 5-star candidates, and then they tend to settle for average, ho-hum, or worse employees instead of really just focusing on what do I need to do to attract the 5-star candidate? And then how do I hire and retain that 5-star employee? Because from a dollar perspective and from a profitability perspective, a 5-star employee, one 5-star employee does the work of 2 or 3, 1, 2, or 3-star employees. So, and you're paying the same rate, whether they're a 5-star employee or a 3-star employee. So, you're doubling your payroll expenses when you have 1, 2, and 3-star employees on your payroll instead of 5-star employees. So it's all numbers.
Well, that's fantastic. And so just by way of diving a little deeper into these 5-star employees, you talk about 11 traits that 5-star employees have. So would you mind talking through what, we probably don't have time to go through all 11, but what some of those highlights are?
Yeah. So in the 5-star employee rating system, there are 5 criteria that you go through in terms of objectively rating talent. I mean, again, there's several problems. There's not just one problem with recruiting, hiring, and retaining 5-star employees. But another big problem is most businesses tend to, just go ad hoc, off the cuff, on the fly. They're Googling questions to ask, and they don't really know how to objectively assess a candidate. And so the 5-star rating system allows them to do that. And one of the criteria in the 5-star employee rating system are the 11 universal qualities of a 5-star employee. So we've identified 11 universal qualities. And, no matter what the role or the position is, I mean, these are like every 5-star employee should have these universal qualities regardless of role. And so 3 of them are, well, let me back up a little bit. Out of the 11, 2 are coded green, which means they're relatively easy to change. So if someone scores low and it's a green one, then okay, that's fine. It's kind of like they don't know what they don't know. So that's easy to fix. There are 2 that are coded red, and these are like red flags, and sirens should be going off saying abort emission, because these are red flags that are very difficult to change in a person. And so if someone is demonstrating these red flag qualities, you want to just say, no, thank you. We'll move on to the next candidate. And then the rest are coded gray, which means that if the person's not quite meeting what you're, where you want them to be in terms of scoring for that in the interview process, those are areas for improvement. And, if you're ready to go all in on your employees and really develop them, then you can help them get through these and improve these qualities. So the 3 I'm going to just kind of give you examples of is the first one is a green one, and that is learn. And what's funny is as entrepreneurs and as business owners and even as managers, we are like sponges. We love to learn. Like, we're in industry groups, we're all over the place, and it's real easy for us to pick up new things. But employees are, kind of a different breed. And, they may be new to the industry. They may have not had a great mentor in their life, et cetera. And so learning is an easy thing to fix. And, most people have a thirst for learning and such. So if you have an employee who's a little green, never worked in the industry before, et cetera, if you kind of just give them some breadcrumbs about, places to go to get more information, great podcast episodes, great books to listen to or read, that's how you can improve that learning in that employee. The 2 red flags. So these are the ones that you want to know. And the first one is limber. Please don't use the word flexibility on your job postings, because you're looking for limber. You're not looking for flexible, and employees are looking for flexibility, and that's different than the limber. Okay. So let me break it down. When I'm talking that you want a limber employee, you want someone who is amenable to change, someone who is open to growth, and someone who can zig when you say zig and zag when you say zag. And they're not rigid. They are the opposite of rigid. They are limber, loose. They are willing to do what it takes. All right. And the second red quality is listening. And when we talk about listening, we talk about listening with all senses, not just audio listening, but in the way that they comprehend things. The way that they read things, the way that they observe things. It's using all of their senses. And I did an interview back in March of a candidate, and we were only about 3 minutes into the interview, and I was just like, she hasn't really answered the questions I've asked. Let me kind of like dial this back a little bit. And this was like a basic screening interview. And so I kind of went a little bit slower and just more very intentional with the questioning. And then at about the 5.5 minute mark, I'm like, she's not listening. She's not a listener. So at that point I said, thank you so much for your time and your application. I just don't think that this is going to be a great fit for us. Thank you so much. Have a great day. I wasn't going to waste my time. Like, she didn't meet one of the 11 qualities. She was not a good listener. And so at that point, I needed to just, say, we're going to move on in separate directions. And I find, sometimes people feel an obligation, like I need to, finish this interview. It was scheduled for 30 minutes. It's like, no, you don't, because that's you're treading into danger zone, because then you start talking yourself into the candidate when clearly they're the wrong candidate. And if they are truly the wrong candidate, then why waste your time and why waste their time leading them on to something that's not true? So rip the Band-Aid off, shut down the interview, and move on to your next candidate. So, but we won't get through all the 11 qualities, but we do have a 4-minute exercise that goes through the 11 qualities that you can do really quickly. And what's cool about it is you test the 11 qualities against your most favorite or one of your best employees, and then you do the litmus test against one of your least favorite or your worst employees ever. And when you see, just using this basic 11 qualities, it's like, okay, wow, yeah, that guy was, I see what the problem was and such. So, and if you want to get that, you can just text "never settle" as one word to 411-321. So that's "never settle" as one word to 411-321. And then we also have the whole 5-star employee rating system in there. But I'm sorry, I feel like I'm monopolizing, but we can hit the other 5 criteria if you want as well, Tom.
No, this has been great. So I think this is a great initial starting point and overview here. And one of the questions that popped up, and by the way, I recommend it. Sounds like a great guide. I know after our interview, I will be going to download this and run this exercise on our team. And one of the questions I'm wondering about is, this is great in screening current new incoming people, but I'm not starting from ground zero. Probably like someone who's going to be listening in, they have a team and they have people. And let's say they run through and they do this exercise and they recognize, I've got some 5 stars, I've got some 3 stars and 2 stars and 1 stars. What happens if you find that you have maybe a staff or team member or two and they're a 2-star or a 3-star? What do you do with these people? Can people change their star rating?
So, it depends upon the role. So, let me tell you, for example, I could get hired as a bookkeeper tomorrow. I could go out, knock on any accounting firm's door, and I could start tomorrow as a bookkeeper. But you know what? I would be a 2-star bookkeeper, but I'm a 5-star entrepreneur. So when someone is a 2-star, it is specific to the role and not necessarily the individual. So a couple of things there. And we've seen this with other business owners that we've worked with and such. And sometimes the person is the right person. They're just in the wrong seat, to, use Jim Collins' phrasing. And so it just might be the wrong role. And so, we've seen sometimes where it's like, okay, they have the 11 qualities, absolutely. But then when we get to the aptitudes and skills required for the role, which is another criteria in the 5-star employee rating system, where you get really specific. So we have a list of almost 30 aptitudes, and then you bring in skills testing specific to the role that someone's filling. And so it varies. The aptitudes and skills vary by role, and it's very specific to the role. But that's typically where they're kind of missing things sometimes. And if they're missing things in the aptitudes and skills, well, then they just might not be in the right role, and they need a different role that requires different aptitudes and skills because they have the 11 qualities. They share the core values of the organization, which is it's the foundation of the 5-star employee rating system. Business owners are always like, oh, if only I could just clone myself. Well, you can. And you can do it by making sure that the people that you hire are aligned with your core values, because if they're aligned with your core values, they think and act like you. It's almost like they're infused with your DNA when you guys are aligned in core values.
Oh yeah, I think you're spot on there. And just thinking of staff on our team and other companies I've worked with and worked for and so on, where you have those great superstar team members that are just that they're going to be aligned on those 11 traits. I think it's great. One question I had for you is a lot of our clients and people we work with, they're in the franchising business. And so how could maybe a franchisor help incorporate this to support franchisees, or how do you see that fitting in?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I mean, this is made for franchises, because franchises are run by processes and systems, and that's how there's consistency in the operations of the business. It's the franchisee is not expected to just create things from scratch. And so what's interesting is, I mean, this is really the first time that there is a true process and system for objectively recruiting, hiring, and retaining 5-star employees. So it definitely plugs into any franchise model. And this is evolved because my business partner, I'm the host of Profit First Nation with Mike Michalowicz, the author of Profit First. And in working with entrepreneurs, he's written several books, and we're collaborating on his next book, which will be called All In: How to Recruit, Hire, and Retain 5-Star Employees, or How to Get Your Employees to Act Like Owners. We're kind of still in the subtitle phase. But when we work with entrepreneurs in Profit First, we found that most businesses with 10 or more employees, $1 million or more in real revenue, their biggest struggle to profitability was in their payroll. They had overinflated payrolls. Their expenses in payroll were too high because they had too many 1, 2, and 3-star employees instead of having one 5-star employee doing the work of the 2 or 3, 1 or 2, 3-star employees. Sorry, bungled that a little bit. But so it was kind of like, okay. And so when we talked to them about like, okay, here's the problem. Like, your payroll just is out of whack with your total revenue, your real revenue, your business operations, et cetera. And it was just like, okay, but if I let them go, like, how am I gonna like not make that same mistake? And how am I? And so then this kind of became a collaboration, because what's funny is I talk about owning all these businesses that do tens of millions of dollars in revenue. But the funny thing is that I only spend 10 hours a week overseeing the operation. So I have 5-star employees who can do the work better than me. So I just have to oversee things. I have daily vitamin C meetings with the different companies. And kind of that's where I get a good pulse of what's going on and make sure that, everything is rolling and cranking and such. But that's kind of like, that's the big secret. And Mike and I have known each other and run in the same entrepreneurial circles for years. But, when I started my first company at the ripe old age of 25, I was lucky with my first couple of hires, but my hiring strategy was to hire people younger than me, because if I didn't know what I was doing. And if they were younger than me, then if I was screwing up, they would have no idea I was screwing up, because this was their first job. I mean, brilliant, right? But I realized after like my 5th hire, who was a disaster and just made me want to call in sick on a Monday morning. I'm like, can I call in sick to my own company? Like, I did not want to deal with this guy. And that was really my turning point, and where I drew the line in the sand. And I said, no more. I've got to go all in. I've got to really figure this out, because this is making me miserable. And so, over 20 years ago, I've just been on this path of growing companies and creating, a process and systems around recruiting, hiring, and retaining 5-star employees. And so that's where we are today.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing that background, and I'll be excited to read your book. I've read, I think all of Mike Michalowicz's books. So I'm enthused that you're doing that together. So that'll be wonderful. Well, this is a great point for us just to transition into asking you the same 4 questions we ask every guest before they go. And the first question is, have you had a miss or 2 in your career and something you learned from it?
Yeah. So my hiring strategy, sorry, I should have saved that for this question. So my hiring strategy at the beginning, my miss was hiring people younger than me, having no process, no system, no objectivity for, really assessing talent. That was my big miss. Absolutely. So.
Perfect. Well, and now we have the all-in company and the 11 traits and the 5-star employee process and program. So we have that, that loss or that miss to turn into this. I love it. Well, let's talk about a make or two that you've shared some great ones already. Are there others you'd like to add into the mix?
Oh my goodness. So I would say the make that I have is that I think I have the best job going. And I have the best job going because I'm not working in the business. I'm working on the business. And my job each day is to make sure everyone, whichever company it is in the daily vitamin C meeting, but my job is to elevate their state and to make sure that they are coming in and starting their day feeling appreciated, feeling like they're making a difference. And that all happens in the vitamin C meeting. So, like my job is to make sure that my employees love what they do and find purpose and appreciation in what they do. And so it's like, I was a cheerleader in high school and I'm a cheerleader, in 20, 30 years later.
Perfect. Yeah. Sometimes as the leader of the organization, it's the kind of the chief cheerleader sometimes, right? It's just a champion cheering on your champions that are making it happen for you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about this idea of a multiplier. It's turned into probably my favorite question we ask our guests because we get such a broad cross-section of answers. Have you used a multiplier or two to help you grow personally or professionally?
Yeah. So, I would say it's two things. I would say it's definitely implementing profit first in our businesses. That has helped us just really, multiply our profitability, multiply our growth. It's just been a tremendous from a cash management standpoint. And then, the other multiplier is never settling for less than 5-star employees because, I find that if I hire 5-star employees, I'm hiring someone that could do the job better than me. So why would I do the job? I find that too many entrepreneurs, they make an abrupt hire or a quick hire or just, you've got a pulse. Okay, you can start Monday, you're hired. But then they get them on board and then they don't trust them. They're frustrated by them. So they're like, okay, I'll just do the work myself. And then it just becomes this like not cool thing. And so if you're having to work in your business and you're having to do everything and you're wearing all the hats and you're trying to keep all the plates spinning, well, then how are you going to multiply your business? The secret in multiplying your business is by multiplying it with 5-star employees because, you can't do it all. You only have so many hours a week. You only have so many days a week. But if I have 5-star employees working for me, I'm 5xing what I could be doing if it was just me doing the work. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, it's brilliant. I love it. I love it. And you're fired up about it too. So I like it. I think it's great, even better. And the final question, Danielle, that we ask every guest is, what does success mean to you?
So success means that my employees are thriving and growing in their positions and roles. And actually, I got an email today from an employee who works in one of our businesses. We process long-term care claims, and they are a claims examiner, and they've been with us for 5.5 years. They joined us straight out of college, and we're the subcontractor to the prime contractor on this contract with the state of California. And this person got a promotion on the prime contractor side. And so, she wrote me and she's like, thank you so much. And this, that, the other. And, I've lost an amazing like rock star of a claims examiner who's been with us for 5.5 years. And I said, well, let's not, because she titled it resignation. I said, let's not call it resignation. Let's call this transitioning to alumni status. And I said, I am so happy and so thrilled for you that you are stepping outside of your comfort zone of being, a rock star claims examiner and progressing in your professional career. So, kudos to you. To me, when a client or when a partner wants one of my employees, that to me is a mark of success, because we're kind of limited. Like, she can't really grow with us in that claims exam business because our portion of the contract is to do XYZ, and she's capable of doing A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and XYZ. So her opportunities are on the prime contractor side. So that's an example of a mark of success.
Oh, that's a great story. Thank you. And I love the concept of alumni, right? It's so great people when you have is to tie this all into the interview here. These 5-star employees, if they're 5-star employees, generally, if they leave, they're most likely they're going to go somewhere else at some point throughout their career, because others will recognize 5-star employees as well. But I love this idea of alumni and leaving the door open. Look, we would welcome you back if the opportunity presents itself. So I think that's brilliant.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Well, Danielle, as we draw this to a close, is there anything you were maybe hoping to share or get across that you haven't had a chance to yet?
You know what? I don't think I closed the loop on the 5-star employee rating system.
Okay.
And I kind of dropped the ball there. So when we were talking about, Mike and I, and where we found that businesses with 10 or more employees and $1 million more in real revenue were struggling with profitability, it was, in their payroll and having too many 1, 2, and 3-star employees. And so another one of the criteria in the 5-star employee rating system is making sure that your employees are 3xing their salaries. So you want to make sure that your employees are having a 3x impact on their salary, ideally a 4x, but minimum a 3x. And then the fifth criteria in the 5-star employee rating system is making sure that the employee is meeting their success metrics. So you want to boil down like formal HR compliant job description, but in a job posting, you want to whittle it down to the 3 to 5 key responsibilities. Those key responsibilities, no matter what the role is, should be about driving revenue and driving profitability. So, and then you want to have success metrics associated with each of those key responsibilities. And you absolutely need to quantify what success in the role looks like. You need to put a number to it. You need to put a dollar sign to it. So, like for our claims examiners, they need to, process claims with 98% financial accuracy, 95% procedural accuracy, and they need to process on average 42 claims a day. It's very clear what success looks like at the role. We've given you the accuracy metrics and we've given you the number of claims per day. And so from the get-go, from that job posting, we are very, very clear. What's kind of cool about that is it attracts the people who like to gamify their jobs. It attracts the 5-star candidates, and it sort of repels the people that don't want to be held accountable. So it kills 2 birds with 1 stone there.
Well, I love that. And what's the website again for them to look for your guide and go secure that if they don't type the text, which was you text, what was the word again?
You text never settle, all one word, never settle. And you text that to 411321, 411321, or you can go to theallincompany.com and access that how to hire 5-star employees guide.
Danielle, thank you so much for a fantastic interview. And let's go ahead and jump into today's 3 key takeaways. So takeaway number 1 is when she talked about 5-star employees are the top 15% of available people or employees that exist. So that means on average, for every 21 applicants that apply for a job posting that you have, 3 of those on average should be top candidates. So that means you get to 21 applicants, you should have 3 5-star employees in that bunch. Takeaway number 2 is when you are working with 1-star, 2-star, or 3-star employees, your payroll is most likely going to be double than if those were 5-star employees. And the reason is that you are going to need most likely 1, 2, or 3-star employees for every 5-star employee you have. And takeaway number 3 was when she shared in some of her closing comments, when she talked about making sure that each employee you have is 3xing their salary in terms of revenue or value add to the company. And she said ways you can make sure that you're doing this is to make sure that the employees are hitting their success metrics and putting those success metrics in the job description that you're using for recruiting new talent, because new potential hires will see that. And the 5-star employees love gamification. I thought that was a great takeaway. And now it's time for today's win-win. So today's win-win is really all about the 5-star employee rating system and how Danielle talked about 11 traits that make up this 5-star employee rating system, and she offers a free guide for you to download. And I liked her 3 key things to look for. One was a green light, as she described it, which was to learn. Does that employee like to learn or willing to learn, an interest in learning? And then the red flags or red lights that she talked about, there were 2 of those that she made mention of highlighting. And number 1 is limber. Is that employee being willing to zig when the company zigs and zags when the company zags? I really like that description. And do they listen? Is this someone who listens, who comprehends, who uses all of their senses in working with the company? I thought those were great takeaways, and I certainly encourage and recommend you download our free guide. No benefit to me or our company, but it's a great little tool if you're struggling in this area to help you out with that. And so that's the episode today, folks. Please make sure you subscribe to the podcast and give us a review. And remember, if you or anyone you know might be ready to franchise their business or take their franchise company to the next level, please connect with us at bigskyfranchiseteam.com. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to having you back next week.